What is good? This is your boy JMak. Welcome back to another video. So this video is specifically about no other than Moscow. Let me give you a little background. I grew up in the 80s, so just to get started, everything that I knew about Russia, first of all, when I grew up, it wasn't Russia, it was USSR. So as I got older and started meeting people from these different places, I used to clump them all in together because when I came up, that's what it was. It was just one big, huge country. I remember, the red and yellow color scheme. I remember watching Rocky IV. It was the first time I actually really was like, I don't know if I like these dudes when they killed Apollo Creed, this huge Russian dude coming in there on all this juice and steroids and killed the brother. And pretty much every movie you see, the bad guy was always the Russian guy. So I didn't know what to expect. There was a part of me that was always afraid to go there, but then as I got older, being an African-American black man, I learned very quickly that the media narratives aren't always true.
My nigga.
And stereotypes don't always line up to what people think they are. So I'm not gonna start believing everything I see on TV. I'd rather live it out for myself and then make my own assumptions after my own experiences. So because of that, it sparked my curiosity. I was kind of like, okay, I wonder what it would be like. Maybe it's not as bad as all these people say. So I have to give a little prelim. The main reason why I actually even went to Russia is because the time that I spent in Ukraine. I spent 6 months in Ukraine during the COVID lockdown. And to be honest with you, it was incredible. I met some friends that I'm still close with there to this day. I'm not trying to be controversial by even putting out this video. I went there for a very specific reason, and this is not a political thing whatsoever, but I'd be lying if I said that, Ukraine to me was like the appetizer. You know what I mean? I'm like, it was incredible. I'm like, all right, well, what's this main dish gonna look like? Because the people there were fantastic. I spent a lot of time in Kyiv. Again, it was phenomenal. If you like to see more about that or hear me tell some stories about my experience there, give a like on this video or give a comment. Let me know what you want to hear about, and I'll talk about it. I'll be as forthcoming as I possibly can. So with that being said, since I spent so much time there, like I said, half a year, I was very much so looking forward to going there. When I went, this is before the situation, is what we were taught to say, it had occurred. Even at that time, they were already saying something was gonna happen. To me, it sounded preposterous, but lo and behold, a lot of the people that I spoke to are actually correct. Obviously, some things popped off. But with that being said, this video is about my first trip to Moscow. So when I was in Moscow, I was actually just going to visit because I was living, I think my first time I was living in Kazan. I can't even say that word without smiling. Again, if you want to hear more about my experience at Kazan, that's probably, oh God. I think I was there again, another 6, 7 months, something like that, almost a year. And it was incredible. That was my best time in Russia, if I'm being honest. I spent some time there. I also spent a year in St. Petersburg. So about 2 years total in Russia. So I have a little bit of experience with it. But every city that I went to, everyone was saying very negative things about Moscow. They were just like, oh, don't go there. The people are mean, and the weather is bad, and it's overpriced, and you don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. But I checked out some other spots, so I wanted to go see what Moscow was about. So I found a place to stay online. At that time, because of these sanctions, a lot of things were closed, so I couldn't book on Airbnb. Airbnb had been blocked off to Russians. A lot of apps and stuff on your phones. A lot of that stuff, if you're not physically in Russia, especially, this is a bit of a tangent, but like dating apps and stuff. If you're like on a dating app now and you try to search overseas, the whole region out there is blocked. But when you're in that country, these apps actually work. So I was actually able to meet a lot of people using that, but when you're not there, it is totally blocked off to you. So that's a little pro tip. I could not book on Airbnb. So I had to use a Russian website to book my apartment. And I forget the name of it. If I find it, I'll try to put it up here on the screen and whatnot. But the apartment was dope, man. I walked up in there. The lady that checked me in was super sweet. They gave me the key when I first got there. And then, obviously probably right now I'm showing some footage of it. You walk in, there's brick and stuff all over the place. They had the nice little kitchen area on the left, and then they had like this sitting area in the middle. On the right was like the bed, and everything was state of the art. Like they had this not TiVo, Apple TV plugged in, but they had this huge clear like glass, and like on that glass is how they used a projector to show the screen. I'd never seen anything like that. So it was like this, it was like a frost matte glass, so you can kind of see through it, but not really. But then when the projector would hit it, it would give you the display. So that was new for me. I was like, okay, this is baller. I was right in the city center as well. My location was fantastic. So when I looked out my window, I saw some really cool views of people walking by. Things are starting to come back to me now. I remember on that strip, there was like a, what is it called? Like a liquor store where you can like buy drinks and stuff. I think there was a bar and a restaurant on that strip. And of course you make a left and you get to the main strip. You have to take taxis to get to certain areas, but Russia, just in general, one of the things I do appreciate about Russia and Ukraine, the cities are really walkable. When I was in St. Petersburg, I lived on Fontanka Street. I think that's like Russian for fountain, but it's like this huge river that goes through. I was on one of the main strips. You can just walk from bar to bar. So it's the same thing in Moscow. Depending on what area you're in, you can just walk around. So when I was there, I did a whole lot of walking, but the place was comfortable. I was really impressed by it. Like I said, the amenities were fantastic, the brick architecture, all that kind of stuff. It was really, really cool. So that honestly set the tone for the entire trip. You know how that is when you're traveling. You have this plane ride, you're doing all your baggage claim and all this kind of, you know, with me as a foreigner, when I'm traveling, they had to check your passport, all this stuff. Everyone thought I was a spy or some kind of, you know, I was getting all kinds of, or a drug dealer, because I had a job, but I also have side hustles. You know, I got multiple companies that I run, so I always had extra income. And the profession that I'm in now, a lot of my main bills are paid for, so I had a lot of disposable income. So a lot of people thought I was doing other stuff. You know, I was selling stuff, but not drugs. You know what I mean? Like I have my own media company and dropshipping company that I do some things with as well. So, but being a black guy in that environment, I'd be lying to you. You know, I always had a chain on, you know, I was braided up, you know, or I had my hair out. Like I was just kicking. I was always in a good mood. I was happy. I always tip. So I'm from America. So, you know, a lot of the stuff they see is just the music, the movies. So some of these assumptions just kick off, but I didn't care. At the end of the day, I'm like, whatever. I was living more like a rapper when I stopped rapping than when I was doing it. So anyway, my first day though, checked in, it was late. So I was really, really tired. I just went to bed. But that next day, like I told you before, I just got up and started walking around. I got out, I got my camera. Every time I go out, I have my equipment and stuff with me. Back then I didn't have, you know, the fanciest stuff that I have now. I actually miss some of that though, but it was still good quality. And I just spent the day like walking around and just sightseeing. Whenever I go to a new city, especially, I'm one of those people that likes to spend a little bit extra money because my apartment wasn't cheap, but I'd rather spend money on a nice place because I like to be comfortable, a nice location so I can be central. And you know, I'm usually a single solo traveler, so you know, if you hanging out, you happen to meet somebody, you want to hang out in a nice, you know, you go home for Bible study, you want to have a nice place to, you know, to read the word. Luckily, since I was in a good location, I was able to get out and just walk around and look around. So that's what I did. The first day I got out literally with my bag and my camera, and I just walked around Moscow taking pictures and taking videos. So yeah, one of the things that I did notice when I was out walking around, it was very, very clean, and just the architecture. It's something about, one of the things I do actually miss about Russia. St. Petersburg wasn't my favorite because of the weather, but the architecture is some of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen. And Moscow, I think St. Petersburg is a more beautiful city than Moscow, but it was still really, really, I'm really into history. So the way that the buildings were shaped, you know, those Dairy Queen ice cream cone looking roofs they have on these buildings in the Red Square, like, I'm from Dallas, you know what I mean? I don't see stuff like that, you know, and a lot of other places I'm going to, it's built very, very differently. So, sorry, I'm out here in Brazil right now. You can see the weather, it's beautiful today, but these flies, I'll tell you what. Anyway, yeah, so the architecture was beautiful. I went during a really, really good time, so the weather was really, really nice. It was sunny, but it wasn't hot and it wasn't cold. So the weather was perfect. Another thing I noticed too, I went to near the Red Square, there's this huge mall, like it's really, really nice. Again, I can't remember the name of it. If I find it online, if you guys know in the comments, please speak on this as I'm showing like the footage on the video. But at that time, again, because of the situation, a lot of the stores were closed, like Louis Vuitton and all these big manufacturers. They were pulling all their stuff off the shelves. So that was the first time I actually saw that. When I was in Kazan, it was a much smaller city, so I didn't really see a lot of the high-end fashion places. But in Moscow, they have all that stuff, and that was the first time I saw a lot of things being closed. The only thing that shut down in Kazan that I noticed at that time was McDonald's. They turned McDonald's into this Russian version of it or whatever, and they changed it up. But I hadn't seen any stores and stuff like that. But in Moscow, for sure, there were a lot of things that were closed up. Talking about it being nice, another thing I noticed was I had to go to the restroom when I was walking around the mall, like, you know, so normally, you know, when you got to use the bathroom, you find it and you go and you walk in. They had these like tenants at the front, and you have to pay money to use the bathroom. That was something that I've been to a bunch of places. I've never seen that. And it was nice, but I'm like, what? And she stopped me like, no, you got to scan, pay this fee. You walk through the little rail with the little arm thing, and then you go in to use the bathroom. That threw me off a little bit. But anyway, so again, really, really nice. Everything was really, really up to standard. Really, again, you hear these things about third world countries. Obviously I was in one of the major cities there, but it wasn't like that at all. I know there's village areas in Russia. Moscow is not one of them. It is very, very advanced, huge, big city, all of that stuff. So